In a world drowning in opinions, what if the real danger isn't outside, but within? Every day, we start things, projects, relationships, choices, but few of us realize what ancient wisdom already knew. The beginning is the most important part of the work. These are not just words. This is a warning. Plato, one of history's greatest minds, left behind powerful truths about knowledge, ignorance, and decision-making, truths we ignore at our own risk. In this video, we uncover 5 timeless principles from Plato that will challenge how you think, and change how you live. Principle 1: Honor the beginning. The beginning is the most important part of the work. The power hidden in a beginning. Most people underestimate beginnings. We rush into things, new projects, new jobs, new habits, without much thought. We think the real value lies in the doing, in the finishing, in the final result. But Plato reminds us, the beginning is sacred. It sets the tone, the intention, the foundation. If the start is weak, everything that follows trembles. Think of building a temple. If the cornerstone is misaligned by just 1 inch, the entire structure will be flawed. The same is true for a life, a relationship, a dream. Why we fail before we start. Many of our failures don't happen in the middle, they were simply sealed the moment we began wrong. We start a diet with self-hatred, not self-respect. We start a relationship out of loneliness, not genuine connection. We start a business chasing status, not service. And so we wonder why things fall apart. The Stoic mind, much like Plato's, says, begin with clarity. With care. With consciousness. The student who rushed ahead. A young artist once approached a master sculptor. "Teach me how to make great art," he begged. "I'm ready to start today." The master handed him a block of marble and a chisel, then said nothing. Days passed. The student began carving recklessly. His hands were fast, but his mind unfocused. He wanted speed, not substance. The result? A misshapen figure, lifeless and crude. The master finally spoke. "You began in haste. You carved with ambition, not attention. The fault is not in your hands, it's in your beginning." And so, the student learned, to create something great, you must begin not with action, but with intention. How to begin anything the right way. Pause before you start. Take a moment to understand what you're truly doing and why. A rushed beginning is like planting seeds in dry, cracked soil. Create a ritual of start. Whether it's your morning routine, writing a journal, or starting a new chapter of life, have a small, sacred ritual. A breath. A prayer. A statement of purpose. Don't skip the foundation. Whether learning a new skill or building a business, never skip the fundamentals. Mastery begins not with brilliance, but with basics. Begin from within. Before you act outwardly, ask yourself inwardly, am I grounded? Am I clear? Am I ready to do this with love, not fear? From Plato to now, the relevance today. In a world obsessed with fast starts and faster finishes, we forget to honor the slow, sacred opening. Starting a YouTube channel? Don't rush into content. Find your core message. Starting a relationship? Don't be blinded by chemistry. Ask if values align. Starting a new life chapter? Pause long enough to know what chapter you're in. A meaningful beginning doesn't scream. It breathes. And in that breath lies power. Final reflection. Plato wasn't just giving productivity advice, he was speaking to the architecture of the soul. Because every action, every project, every journey, is a mirror of how we begin. So tomorrow, when you wake up and prepare to step into your work, your purpose, your life, begin slowly. Begin intentionally. Begin well. For as Plato said, the beginning is the most important part of the work. And if you honor it, the rest will follow. Principle 2: feed the soul with knowledge. Knowledge is the food of the soul. The soul is not fed by bread alone. In our modern lives, we never forget to feed the body. We plan meals, count calories, worry about nutrients. But how often do we stop to ask, what am I feeding my soul? Plato's wisdom pierces like a beam of sunlight through centuries of noise. Knowledge is the food of the soul. He doesn't say, entertainment. He doesn't say, comfort. He says, knowledge. Truth. Understanding. Insight. That is what nourishes our innermost being. Because without knowledge, the soul doesn't starve in hunger, it withers in confusion. Junk food for the soul. We live in an era of information obesity but wisdom malnutrition. Every day, we scroll endlessly, consuming noise, headlines, gossip, trivia, conflict. Our minds are full, but our souls are empty. It's like feeding your body sugar all day, you feel stimulated, but not sustained. Plato reminds us, the soul grows by what it digests, not just what it consumes. Real knowledge isn't just data. It's the insight that shapes character, calms anxiety, and awakens purpose. The story of two students. There were once two students in ancient Athens. One devoured every scroll he could find, chasing fame, arguing constantly in the marketplace. He knew facts, but never felt peace. The other sat quietly with a single teacher. He asked deep questions. He read slowly, walked often, reflected daily. Years later, one was celebrated, but shallow. The other was unknown, but wise. When asked the secret, the second replied, I do not study to appear intelligent. I study to feed what is invisible in me. That is the soul Plato speaks of. How to nourish the soul in daily life. Read what matters. Choose books and voices that challenge you to grow, not just confirm what you already know. Seek understanding, not just information. Ask, what does this teach me about life, about myself, about how to live better? Quiet reflection. After learning something new, sit with it. Let it settle. Ask how it applies to your own journey. Teach what you learn. Sharing wisdom multiplies it. Teaching forces you to integrate, not just memorize. Avoid intellectual junk food. Limit time spent on superficial media. The soul can't thrive on drama, clickbait, and endless noise. What a nourished soul looks like. It's calm in chaos. It listens more than it speaks. It questions, but not to attack, to understand. It sees through the fog of the moment and moves toward truth. And like a well-fed body, it has strength. Not to dominate others, but to master the self. Final reflection. The greatest hunger today isn't physical. It's spiritual malnourishment. A starvation of meaning. A drought of depth. But you don't need to escape to the mountains to feed your soul. You just need to ask. What am I truly consuming each day? Is it helping me grow, or just keeping me distracted? Because Plato was right. Knowledge is the food of the soul. So when you feel tired in ways sleep can't fix, anxious in ways rest can't heal, try this. Don't scroll. Don't escape. Feed your soul. With wisdom. With wonder. With truth. And slowly, silently, powerfully, you will grow. Principle 3, choose with wisdom, not with numbers. A good decision is based on knowledge and not on numbers. The illusion of numbers. We live in an age that worships data. Everywhere you look, metrics, charts, likes, followers, profits, votes. We are trained to believe that numbers are the ultimate truth. That if something can be counted, it must be valuable. But Plato stands across time and whispers. Be careful. The number is not the decision. The number is not the truth. Because you can have all the statistics in the world and still make a foolish choice. When the map replaces the terrain. There's a story told about a village that relied too much on a digital map. One day, a traveler followed GPS blindly and drove straight into a river. When asked why, he said, "Because the map told me this was the road." The map was accurate, once. But the world had changed. The bridge had collapsed. And still, the numbers on the screen overruled the wisdom in his eyes. This is how many of us live. We choose based on metrics, not meaning. On charts, not character. On what looks efficient, not what is right. Why knowledge matters more than count. You can count profits. But can you count integrity? You can measure followers. But can you measure influence on someone's soul? You can rank students by grades. But can you quantify their curiosity, their kindness, their will to rise? Plato reminds us, the highest truths don't come with a number attached. They come through understanding, reflection, and conscience. The CEO who chose differently. A well-known CEO once faced a major decision: lay off hundreds of workers to boost quarterly earnings and please shareholders. The numbers were clear: downsizing would spike profits. Wall Street would cheer. But she chose differently. She kept her team. Invested in training. Trusted in long-term growth over short-term praise. Years later, not only did the company thrive, it became a model of loyalty and culture. When asked why she went against the data, she said, "The numbers told me what would be profitable. But knowledge told me what was right." Practices for making wise decisions. Ask, what is the story behind the numbers? Don't stop at stats. Look deeper, into human cost, moral value, long-term impact. Balance logic with ethics. Even if something is efficient, is it just? Is it kind? Is it sustainable? Consult the invisible. Facts are vital, but so are intuition, values, context, and timing. Measure what matters most. Wisdom, compassion, discipline, trust, these are hard to quantify but critical to life. Pause before you decide. Create space. Don't rush. A good decision needs stillness, not pressure. From Plato to the boardroom to your life. In every area, from business to love, from leadership to self-development, we are called to choose. And the easy path is to just follow the numbers. But the noble path is to ask. What does knowledge say? What does wisdom say? What does my deeper understanding tell me? Because real life is not an Excel sheet. It's a soul-to-soul journey. Final reflection. We must reclaim the ancient art of wise decision-making. Not led by trend. Not by fear. Not by surface-level success. But by knowledge, cultivated, earned, lived. Because in the end, it's not about how many people clapped for your choice. It's about whether your choice will still matter when the numbers fade. As Plato said, a good decision is based on knowledge and not on numbers. So the next time you're faced with a choice, big or small, ask. Am I counting, or am I understanding? Choose with knowledge. Not for what looks right. But for what is right. That's how leaders are made. That's how civilizations rise. That's how souls stay true. Principle 4, Transcend mere opinion. Opinion is the medium between knowledge and ignorance. The fog between knowing and not knowing. We live in a time where everyone has a voice, but not everyone has depth. Opinions are everywhere. On social media, in conversations, on news panels. Opinions dressed as certainty. As truth. As identity. But Plato, with his calm and ageless insight, warns us. Opinion is not knowledge. Nor is it pure ignorance. It's the dangerous space in between. A half-truth. A shallow conclusion. A borrowed belief. Opinion feels like knowing, and that's what makes it dangerous. Why opinions can deceive the soul. Opinion is seductive because it provides the illusion of understanding without the effort of actual thought. We form opinions about people we've never met. About cultures we've never experienced. About subjects we've never truly studied. And then we defend those opinions with fire, not to seek truth, but to protect ego. The mind convinced it already knows becomes closed. And a closed mind cannot grow. The story of the two fires. There's an ancient parable about two fires. The first fire is wild, it spreads quickly, fueled by wind, chaos, noise. It devours without understanding. This is opinion. The second fire is slow, it burns deep, steady, illuminating the darkness around it. This is knowledge. One creates smoke. The other gives light. In times of crisis or confusion, most people run toward the smoke. Few seek the fire that truly warms. Plato calls us to be of the second kind. How to move from opinion to knowledge. Question your own views. Ask, where did this belief come from? Is it mine, or did I inherit it? Don't confuse feeling with knowing. Just because something feels true doesn't mean it is. Investigate before declaring. Spend time with complexity. Real knowledge often resists simple answers. Be patient with nuance. Learn to say, I don't know. It is not weakness. It is intellectual humility, and the beginning of real growth. Listen more, speak less. Let your desire be not to impress, but to understand. Why this matters more than ever. In an age of endless information and zero attention, opinion spreads faster than truth. Fake news. Polarization. Cancel culture. Outrage. Much of it driven not by deep understanding, but by shallow reaction. And the only antidote? Disciplined thought. Honest inquiry. Quiet reflection. That's how we shift from noise to signal. From judgment to wisdom. From ego to truth. Final reflection. Opinions are easy. Knowledge is earned. Opinions divide. Knowledge unites. Opinions echo. Knowledge endures. And between the two stands a soul, yours, deciding which fire to feed. So today, take a step back from the urge to argue, to react, to be right. And take a step towards something rarer, to understand. As Plato reminds us, opinion is the medium between knowledge and ignorance. Let us not live in the fog between. Let us rise into the light. And let our words, our choices, our lives, reflect not what we think we know, but what we've truly come to understand. Principle 5, confront the root of all evil. Ignorance, the root and stem of all evil. Evil doesn't begin with hate, it begins with blindness. When we think of evil, we imagine cruelty, violence, greed. But Plato looks deeper. Beneath the symptoms. Beneath the behaviors. And he finds the root, ignorance. Not ignorance as in not knowing facts. But a deeper ignorance, not knowing oneself. Not seeking truth. Not questioning the world or our place in it. This kind of ignorance is not passive, it's dangerous. Because what we don't understand, we fear. And what we fear, we attack. The unseen origin of harm. A tyrant justifies oppression, because he is ignorant of justice. A bigot spreads hate, because he is ignorant of common humanity. A corrupted leader steals, because he is ignorant of what true wealth means. Behind every act of evil is a blindness, to truth, to empathy, to responsibility. This is the stem Plato speaks of. If we don't pull it out at the root, evil will keep blooming, in new forms, under new names. The parable of the darkened mirror. In ancient lore, there's a tale of a kingdom where mirrors were made of iron, dark, distorted, unclear. People looked into them and saw twisted versions of themselves. One man saw himself as monstrous, and so became cruel. Another saw only weakness, and so lived in fear. No one saw the truth. Until one day, a traveler arrived with a polished silver mirror. Clear. True. Honest. The people were shocked, they had never really seen themselves before. This mirror is knowledge. Without it, we act in ignorance, and hurt others, and ourselves, without even knowing why. How to uproot the ignorance within. Pursue self-knowledge relentlessly. Ask the hardest questions. What are my biases? Where am I blind? What truths am I avoiding? Educate not just the mind, but the heart. True knowledge shapes character, not just competence. Have the courage to unlearn. Much of what we've been taught may be incomplete or false. Let truth replace comfort. Expose yourself to diversity of thought. Read widely. Listen deeply. Be willing to sit with ideas that challenge your own. Practice inner honesty. Ignorance often hides behind denial. Shine light into the dark corners of your beliefs. What happens when knowledge replaces ignorance? Compassion replaces cruelty. Integrity replaces corruption. Wisdom replaces impulse. Peace replaces conflict. Because when a human being truly sees, they act differently. When they understand, they transcend. Final reflection. The world's greatest tragedies, wars, injustice, betrayal, often don't begin with malice. They begin with not knowing. Not knowing the value of life. Not knowing the pain of others. Not knowing the consequences of our choices. And so Plato speaks across millennia to remind us. Ignorance, the root and stem of all evil. If you want to change the world, don't just shout. Don't just resist. Don't just react. Learn. Study. Observe. Reflect. Because evil cannot thrive in the presence of true understanding. And the most radical act of transformation you can make is to replace every shadow of ignorance within you with the flame of truth. That is how civilizations rise. That is how souls awaken. That is how evil is undone. Not by hate, but by light. In a world quick to speak, but slow to think, Plato reminds us, true wisdom begins with the soul. So the next time you begin something, stop and ask. Is this built on knowledge? Or just noise? If this video brought you clarity or a shift in perspective, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, here at True Grit Mind, we don't chase trends. We seek timeless truths. Think deeply. Live deliberately. Until next time.